This popcorn-style review contains scenes from another video. Circlet Princess is an anime based on a browser game where there's a new sport that uses VR to simulate, to enable single combat between two people. The sport seems to be primarily female-driven, and it is about a country bumpkin who, while exploring Tokyo, ends up getting accidentally drawn into an exhibition bout with the champion, and the fight between them ends up crashing the system, and it ends up being declared a tie, and then she has so much fun during this exhibition bout that she ends up working her butt off, and she ends up getting into a school that's supposed to have a program to enable this sport called Circlet Bout, but the school doesn't have a Circlet Bout team at the time, so she ends up, helping the club try and get started so that they can have their own Circlet Bout team and then participate in the Circlet Princess tournament, I think is what the tournament's called. So the story itself is pretty bog standard, and there's nothing special about the combat or the characters, either design-wise or story-wise. I think the most interesting thing that happens with the characters' stories overall is that the main character is bizarrely good at this VR sport, and it turns out that, I'm saying VR, it's more of a hologram, and it turns out that the reason that she's so good is because she's moving so fast that the system can't keep up, and it just doesn't properly render her attacks for her opponents. So she's basically attacking invisibly and lag stabbing them, which I think is actually a hilarious reason, although it doesn't explain why at any point she is able to move so fast, but it is known that the champion also moves that fast. And so that's why she was able to tie the champion. The reason that the system crashed was because they both lagged the system at the same time, and it just couldn't keep up with them, and it just broke, which I think is funny that the main character isn't actually good. She's just exploiting this broken system in this new sport. What I find most interesting and most flawed about the show, though, is the sport itself, and I wonder if this is caused by the browser game not making any goddamn sense, or if this is caused by the anime just adapting it shittily. But Circlet Bout is a one-on-one exhibition fight between two people. However, it's considered a team sport because you have to have a minimum of 5 people in your Circlet Bout team. So it's one team against the other team in one-on-one fights. However, the winner of the battles is determined out of best 2 out of 3. So what? Why do you need 5 people if you're going to determine your match out of 2 out of 3? Why wouldn't it be 3 out of 5? Then there's a chance that everyone on the team could fight. That doesn't make any sense. More than that, combat sports are usually just solo sports and not team sports. Why is Circlet Bout a team sport in the first place? I do not understand the rules to this fucking fight. Furthermore, it seems like most enemies in a Circlet Bout go down in one attack. However, there are rare instances of characters being hit several times in a fight and then not losing. So I don't understand how you win. The main character's weapon breaks several times, and other characters' weapons break several times, and the second their weapon breaks, they're considered to have lost the match. However, at one point, the main character's weapon breaks, and she just keeps fighting, and it's like, well, I guess that's fine. But then, when the champion's weapon breaks at the end, her weapon breaks, and she's considered to have lost the round, even though she wasn't hit and she was still able to fight. I literally don't understand the rules of this sport, and I don't understand why the rules are what they are. And at one point, one of the enemies was able to use their uniform colors and decide the color of the arena, and they were able to camouflage their attacks inside of the arena. How that is allowed by any sport, I have no fucking clue, and it baffles me. And there's certain numbers of resources that certain characters are allowed to have allocated to them. And this seems to be based on actual money, but it also seems to have a functional, effect on the in the game of in the actual sport for some fucking reason. There are instances of people from outside the game giving the resources required to form their weapons to the actual participants in the bouts, but then there's limits to, I think, the amount of resources you can use in a bout in the first place, because this came up in one of the earlier fights where the main character's team was only allowed to shoot 2 bullets in one fight because of the amount of resources. And it was revealed that they have a handicap against them because they're a newer team. So not only is there a limit to the amount of money you're allowed to spend in this, and the money seems to come from arbitrary places, but newer teams are handicapped against them. Like, usually if you have a handicap, it's like the newer team handicapping the more experienced team. But no, the newer teams are the ones that receive the handicap. I don't understand this sport. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic. Your Envoy of Hope. Bye-bye.